Welcome back to my backyard. There has been so much activity here over the last week, and I'm just very excited about everything going on. We are moving steadily on the tiny house. I hope to give you an update on that soon. Electrician came in this last week, ran all the electrical rough in. I got the plumber in there right now, finishing up the plumbing rough in. I'll be able to call in for inspections next week. This is moving super fast, and I'm really excited about it. Also, my garden's doing great. Let me show you what the corn's doing, and then I'm going to come in here and start planting some beans. Here. So it's up to my knees here on this back part, some of the taller stuff. A little bit shorter over here, a little bit shorter back in here. And then these are my first 3 rows I planted. This is where I'm going to plant my beans in here. Then we have my next 3 rows here, which are doing really well also. A couple weeds growing in here, not a big deal. But these are doing really good also. I lost some of my corn to crows and that sort of thing, but I want to get this big weed here. But overall, my corn is doing really well. Very impressed with it. And then I planted 3 more rows. Let me show you those. So there's my second 3 rows right there. You can see those coming up. And then here is my third 3 rows. I can actually zoom this out a little bit. You can see that stump right there. It's growing kind of behind and around the stump. This row comes up and is cut off by the stump, growing on both sides. I've got this row coming up in the middle here, and this row over here. These are good 5 inches already. They're actually pretty close to the second set of rows that I planted over here. So I'll be able to do beans in these 2 rows probably pretty close together. But for today, we're going to go back to that first set of rows, and we're going to go ahead and plant some pole beans over in that area right there. So let me move the camera and we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see if I can show you this package. I got all my beans, all my seeds from Southern Exposure this year, and these are, I don't know how focused that is. Maybe I can bring it a little closer. These are Selma Zestas, which are snap pole beans. Should grow up this corn no problem. Okay. There we go. Alright, that's all I'm going to plant today. I want the other stalks to get a little bit taller before I start planting beans around them. Beans grow a little bit faster than the corn, so I want to make sure the stalks are tall enough that the bean gardens aren't just going to pull them down. Alright, so I just want to show you this real quick. My wife is pulling some beets, and look at that beauty. That is just great color, great size. That's a good 2 inches in diameter, maybe 2.5 inches long. And look at these beautiful Beet greens we can eat in a salad also. Here's another one. She just pulled a little bit smaller foliage and a little bit smaller beet, but not by a lot. It's quite beautiful also. I'm really going to enjoy these tonight. Look at those two beauties. It's going to make a great salad. In addition to the beets, here's something else I wanted to share with you. The zucchini is doing phenomenal. The two original ones I planted that have grown up have just gotten huge. You can see here even some of the second and third plantings that I put in there are coming up nicely. And then here is the best part right here. Let me actually move the camera closer. All right, behind this ginormous leaf right here are two zucchinis. I've got this one at the end of the flower right here, my zucchini. And if you can see it on the camera, it's actually right there. I got another one right there coming in. So two zucchinis on this one, plus I've got several more flowers right here. I'm going to get several more zucchini out of this pretty soon. Then on top of that, this little bit smaller one right here is producing some flowers too. And there's a little tiny zucchini in my other bigger plant over here. These are just doing great. And then my beans over there, let me move the camera again. The beans are doing exceptionally well. Also, I even have underneath my beans here, a couple looks like three tomato plants I'm going to transplant. Inside my beans, I actually have some beans coming in right here. So my bush beans are doing good. Bush beans, you only get 1 or 2 harvests out of them, and then they're done. So I don't expect to get a lot out of them. But they're doing really good. Peas are almost done. Probably the next harvest peas I do off of these is going to be just to dry them out for planting next year. And then of course my arugula, mustard greens, and radishes, they're all gone. But if you look over here, let me zoom this in so it's a little bit easier to see. All those cukes I planted, they are coming up nicely. They're about 2 inches tall right now. They've got their second leaves coming in here, and these should take off real fast here pretty soon. They're still establishing a root base, but then they're just gonna, they can grow easily 1 to 2 foot a day once they get established. So these are gonna grow quickly. They'll get up about 6 inches or so and then start weaving into this backing I've put up here with some bamboo and fence section that I had left over. And they should grow right up this fence right here, all the way along here. I've got my cucumber coming in and they're doing really nice. So that second planting I did really well. This is the bed where my beets were just harvested. But look at those carrot tops. I wanted to show you that. They are doing spectacular. Let me zoom that out. Again, still very weird. My tallest plants are over here, and then they kind of go down as they grow along this bed. But look at how that's my elbow length in height. These carrot greens are just so tall right here. And then I've got my beets back here doing really good also. I mean, we've already picked, I think my wife pulled 5 beets out of here a little bit ago. I showed you 2 of them. And just look at them. They are just doing wonderful on this side of the garden bed. So where the arugula and mustard greens and all those were, it's a little down here in the dirt. So we're going to put some more dirt in here. And then we're probably going to plant some more beets on top of all of that. Peppers, they're slow growing, but they're growing. What you actually see on the left side here of the bed are not peppers, it's clover. But look, it looks like I planted clover. It's kind of funny, so I just left it. On the right side, those are peppers, so those are coming in decent. Those should be poblano peppers. I don't have any jalapeno peppers coming in. I may go pick up a few and just plant them in here. Tomato plants, we had like 2 weeks of rain, and they are doing pretty good. Look at that. That thing is, this particular plant is probably 10, 12 inches tall. Now, when plants get tall like this, what's a good idea to do with tomato plants? This will help prevent disease, and it will help put more energy into growth and later on into tomatoes. So what you want to do is just take all of these bottom leaves off right here. And we'll just break all of these off. I'm going to pick that one out of the middle, pick that one out of the middle, and I'm debating on taking this one off too. Possibly this one. I'll probably come back and cut these two off later. For now, I'm going to leave them and let that plant grow up just like it is. This stick will get tied off over here. I haven't tied these off yet because I thought I may want to come back and adjust the height of my longer pieces going across here. And I didn't want these tied off before I did all that. So, so I haven't tied any of these sticks in here off on either of these two levels, but I will come back and do that. So I'm going to pull these out because, again, you don't want to leave these in your garden. They can attract bugs, which will then get on the rest of your plants. So throw that in your compost or anywhere else that it's not going to affect your other plants. I'll just throw mine over the fence there. Alright. I have some other tomatoes in my other bed that are doing pretty good too. Let me move the camera again. So I have 3 plants on the this end of this garden bed, and something got in here and ate this one all up, but the stem is still green, so I'm going to leave it for now. But my healthy one here, I want to go ahead and break the limbs off the bottom of this one. Look at this leaf right here. Let me turn my screen, make sure I'm showing you this correctly. There we go. Just want to show you this. Something has eaten the leaves off of this also. So again, breaking the leaves off, the lower stems off, getting it a little bit higher is only going to be beneficial to the plant. So yeah, a little tiny one coming in there. So that's what I want to do to all of these. Now, even though this one is lower than this one's growing down towards the ground. So I'm actually going to break this one off. But I have a new little one growing in right here, so I'll leave that one for now. And then this one will come off later, but I'm going to leave that for now too. I want it to be able to get some osmosis from the sun. Come around the other side here. Got one down towards the ground right here that I am going to remove. We'll go ahead and take this low one off, and this one, something's been eating on this too. That's all chewed up, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that one as well. And then I do have one small one over here on this end of the garden bed. And I don't know, I guess I can pick a couple of these lower ones off like that, and that should be good. So I'll come back, probably remove some lower branches again when they get a little bit taller, but for now this should be good, and that should actually help them as they grow. Because so many of my tomato plants died off, they started growing and then died off in the garden, I decided to germinate some more. So what I have here outside of this garden bed, these are actually, have a little tray. These were poblano peppers. None of them came in, but I've got like 3 of them in the garden, so that's fine. These are jalapeno peppers over here. I only had 1 come in there. Not great. But these right here, these are yellow tomatoes, and they actually came in really well. I've got one yellow over here in the bed, and one purple, and so this will help fill out the yellow side. I'm gonna let those get a little bit taller before I put them in the garden. I want to make sure they're very strong, have a good root base. Then if you look over here, I have some more tomatoes. These are purple tomatoes right here, and these are sumemr, which are my Roma style tomatoes. That is supposed to be butterhead lettuce right there. None of that has come up, but if you look back in the other grow box, let me actually zoom right in a little bit. This is salad bowl lettuce right here, and I've got several that are coming in here. So that's really good. That should do just fine. So yeah, so these will be ready to go in the garden pretty soon too. Hopefully in another week or so, I'll be able to plant all this. About the right size, right?
Yeah.
Worried about his head falling off. Guess we'll see. So a couple of these little ones are rotting already. Obviously they're not going to get any bigger. This one's okay, but it's still pretty small, but it's been in there for a while, hasn't grown. So I decided to take this one out. I did that on the other plant over there, and they got a little bit bigger the next time they grew. So the biggest zucchini I pulled out was not from my biggest plant, though. It seems that the two plants on the ends are putting so much energy into the plant that they're not really putting energy into producing zucchini. So some of the smaller ones that are eclipsed by them, they're actually putting out decent sized zucchinis. So I've already had some zucchinis I've pulled from this and enjoyed them. I'm looking forward to enjoying these as well. Nothing beats zucchini straight from the garden. Show you some other stuff we picked. We just picked all this dill because it's going to seed. We've already picked a bunch of it. We have a whole bunch left. Got this really large zucchini I showed you that I picked, plus a couple small ones here too. I may have a couple more, I'll go back and look. And we got a very large handful of green beans. These bush beans are producing. We have pulled so many out already. I'll take the camera around and show you how all my plants are doing. The garden is doing wonderful. Hey everybody, I just want to give you another quick update how my garden's doing. This is July 15th, so I probably won't do another update for a little while, but everything's doing really good. Let me take you in here and just show you what's going on in my garden. Alright, so this is the bed my peas were in, and my wife and I refilled it with dirt, and then we put some new fresh mulch on top of that. And I was actually just going to let this bed set until I was ready to start putting my onion sets in here. And I decided that I wanted to go ahead and just plant something for now that will probably grow pretty quick. And then when I cut these plants here back, I'll put my onion sets in. So what we have, let me actually come to a closer one here. Might be a little bit easier to see. There's one right there. I've got some yellow squash in here. The yellow squash I planted with my corn. It isn't doing great. It was kind of experimental anyways. That was a temporary, like, hey, I have the space, what should I use it for kind of thing. I'll show you that here in just a little bit. But I do like yellow squash, and I wanted to grow some, so I put some yellow squash seeds in here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squash plants growing, and they should do pretty good. And then right in front of that, I don't know if you can see it here, but here we go. I did another row of radishes all along here, and they just continue all the way down the edge of this bed. I do love me some pork rinds, and after I finish this large container of pork rinds between my son and I was like, well, this is a great container. What could I use this for? And I was making so many trips back and forth between my garage and the garden. I thought, you know what? This is a good temporary shed right here. I can keep little things I need, my pruning shears, some string, gloves, that sort of thing in this bucket with a lid on it in the garden. That way it keeps it dry, but it's easily accessible should I need it. So I can move the bucket wherever I need to in the garden, and it's easier to get to. So that's what I'm doing there. And then the bed where I had my arugula and my mustard greens and my radishes earlier in the spring, I did fill that back up with dirt with my wife, and we planted her lettuce, which is in the back there, that she had grown from seed. And in front of that we put another row of beets in here, and put some plant food in here with it, and these are doing really well. Just look at the growth on that, and that's only over a couple of weeks. That's maybe 3 weeks worth of growth right there. So super happy with the way that bed is coming around. I read several documents about bush beans because I had never grown them prior to this year, and everything I read said bush beans are good for about 1 or 2 good harvests, and then that's it. And these bush beans I planted in the early spring. It was, I believe, late April or early March. Late March or early April when I planted these. And they have been so wonderful at producing. But let me zoom out, and what you'll see is now this bed is getting pretty empty. It was a completely full bed before. Now it's getting pretty empty. They're coming to the end of their life. I've had several die off. These will die pretty soon too, and then I'll start making preparations in this bed for my fall plantings. This will also be, I can't remember, it's either onion or garlic I'm putting in this bed, and then the other one will go in the other bed where my squash plants are, my zucchini. So zucchini did pretty good this year. They didn't do great. The plants did good. The number of zucchini I got hasn't been fantastic, but I have gotten some good zucchini, some very large zucchini. You saw me previously pull a pretty big zucchini out, and I've pulled several more out that were that size or bigger, and they were still tender and green and delicious, and they didn't have huge seeds in them, which meant they weren't overgrown. They were just giant zucchinis. And so the plants have done good. They're just not putting out a lot of female flowers. And so this has been a good year for learning about zucchinis. I just want to share with you a couple of the lessons I learned. First of all, you'll notice that the plants aren't as big as they might have been. Even the leaves aren't as big as they might have been in previous videos. And that's because one of the lessons that my wife and I learned, and I can actually zoom in here and show you some of the pruning that we've done here, is you can see where we've cut back some of these. And that's because you want first of all air to be able to get in there. Second of all, you want the bees to be able to see your flowers or they won't pollinate them. And I think early on, when I did have more female flowers, is the reason I wasn't getting a lot of zucchini is because the bees couldn't see and therefore pollinate the flowers of the females. They could only see or maybe get to the males. Second of all, I learned what the difference is between male and female flowers. So let me move the camera a little bit and I can show you that as well. Alright, so if you look in here, right here, it looks like a little tiny zucchini with a flower on the end. That is the female flower, and what'll happen is when that flower opens up and it gets pollinated, it allows this zucchini then to grow. Think of this like an egg, right? Egg has to be fertilized before it can grow into something. So the flower has to be pollinated, which allows the zucchini to grow. So it's really easy to see. The female flowers are always going to be closer to the stem, the main vine right here, and they'll grow off of that vine to get more nutrients. A little bit different than the male flowers. Let me show you what one of those looks like. So this is a male flower that I'm showing you right here, and what'll happen is, let me pull some of these back so I can get my hands in here. You'll have this long stem grow out, and then you'll have the flower on the end. So there's no zucchini, little baby zucchini there or anything like that. It's just the stem, and the flower. I knocked a bee out of the middle of it and it startled me there. But yeah, it's really great to look down these flowers and see bees and stuff down in them pollinating, and it's wonderful. But if you only have males and you don't have females, you're not going to have zucchini. So anyways, this has been a great year for learning about zucchinis. I learned so much I didn't know already. One other thing, let me pull the camera around the other side and show you that too. So where we're looking down at right here is where the largest plant I had was, or where it lived in this bed. And it actually came out of this, what you see right, this rotted mess right here, is where the stem came out, and I actually had just cut that. And so you see that, I mean, it wasn't providing any nutrients to the plant. It had put some more roots in the ground a little further that way, but it wasn't producing anything. It didn't look healthy. I cut it out, and I took the stem and sliced it open to look inside to see if there was grubs in it, and there were. Okay, I've got another sick plant. Right here. You can see how this is kind of open right here. And I shouldn't even really have to cut into this in order to show you, but I will anyways. So let me get my knife out. So you can see it's open right here. I can even see the bugs moving around inside there. But if I were just to cut this open right here, pull that open, you can see the channel the bug was going through. There's actually, it's not these little black bugs, there's actually a bigger grub in there somewhere. And basically what happens is there's this moth that comes in the spring and it lays eggs right around the base of your plant. And it's hard to see, but if you scrape those eggs off early, if you catch them early and scrape them off, then you can actually save your plant. But once those eggs hatch, the bugs, the little grubs will burrow into your plant, and then they just start eating it from the inside out, and it just destroys your plant, as you can see there. So this plant, even though the leaves look kind of healthy, the plant itself is actually not healthy, and I need to cut this thing out. So we're just going to cut it right here, cut it up into pieces I can handle here. Oh, there we go. Now this one I can't tell. Let me zoom in there a little bit. Can't tell if this one is bad too. Doesn't look like it is, so I might just leave this one. Yeah. This one looks okay. Just needs cleaned up a little. Just like that. Just clean that up some. There we go. So I just wanted to catch that on camera, show you how you can observe those bugs. Again, once those grubs get inside the vine, there's nothing you can do about it. There's no way to save it. So you might as well cut it out at that point. I should probably correct myself. There are two ways you can correct the issue once you discover it. If you discover it early enough, you can cut the stem open and get the grubs out, and the stem will heal. So you can do that, but you have to catch it really early. Or evidently there's an insecticide you can use that you inject into the vine and it kills the grubs. But again, it's not organic gardening, which is what I'm trying to do here. So there's your options. Alright, here are my pepper plants. They are almost up to my height. Granted, there's about a 2-foot lift off the ground here because it's a raised bed. So that put them at about 4 feet tall, which is pretty good. They are producing, at least some of them are producing pretty good also. So let me show you some of the fruit I have. And I've also harvested some of my jalapeno peppers, but I still have more almost ready to harvest. Let me show you those also. So these little peppers that you see right here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peppers right here. These are poblano peppers. My first poblano peppers coming in. I've got blossoms on the other ones, but I don't have peppers coming in yet, at least not like this. So it looks like I got a couple more in here I didn't see. This particular one is doing really well, but yes, poblano peppers coming in really nice. Let me take you around to the other side here. Alright, so right now this is the jalapeno pepper plant that has the most jalapenos on it. If you look in here, I mean, that's good 3-inch jalapeno right here and here and here. I got a little 2-incher here, 2-incher here, about 1.5 inches there, 1.5 inches there. And then, I don't know if I can get it from this angle, but let's take a look here. If you look at the plant next to it, and this is the one where I actually harvested a couple from already. This one's like 3 inches long, huge, my biggest one yet. And I got a couple more little tiny ones on here growing as well. One up here. So several more on this one growing also. So my jalapeno plants are doing good. Poblanos are producing peppers. So far, banana peppers have not produced anything. And the mammoth jalapeno has not produced anything. But everything else is doing good. Let me show you the carrot bed next. So here are my carrots. I have already pulled several sizable carrots out of here, and I will probably harvest a bunch more soon. I just don't know what I'm going to do with all these carrots yet, so that's why I haven't pulled them out of the ground. They are ready to pull. They're a good 1 inch wide and about 4 or 5 inches long. So at least the ones on this side are closest to the camera here. So yeah, carrots are doing good. They'll come out soon, and then I'm gonna start preparing this bed for a fall, my fall plantings. Probably reconstruct it a little bit, fill it with dirt, compost, maybe some manure, and get it ready for planting something else. Tomato plants are over my head. They are towering. In fact, some of the limbs in it are actually falling over because I don't have anything high enough to support the tops of these plants. And some of them are just producing like crazy. Let me get the camera in here and show you some close-ups. So here you can see a cluster of tomatoes growing. These were my earliest tomatoes. And they're not very big, but there's a bunch of them. And then, I don't know how well you can see this in the camera, but if I just pan up through here, I mean, this one tomato plant probably has, maybe 50 tomatoes growing on it right now. So it is doing really good. And then the top of it is just covered with little yellow blossoms. So this one's doing really good. I believe this is one of my purple tomato plants. We'll see what color the tomatoes come out in the end. They really look more Roma shaped. And then if I zoom out, you can see that that whole bed is just full. All those little seedlings I put in there have just gotten very, very big. Let me bring the camera around the other side and show you from that perspective. Again, very tall tomatoes. This plant is probably 6 feet tall, and it's about a good 2 feet off the ground, so it puts it up. I guess it's probably about 5 feet tall because it's probably close to 7 feet high in the air. If I stood next to it, it would just tower over me. I mean, it is just so tall. And that is, I believe, the yellow tomatoes. And then the next bed over where my Marzano tomatoes are growing. These are doing okay. I did cut one of them. Let's see if I can show you just today, because I think I have a blight in the soil here, which means I don't even know if I'm going to get any tomatoes out of this bed. Plants aren't really producing, except for the tiny little plant I had growing on the other end of this bed. Let me take you over there. So you can see I've got some tomatoes on this one here. They're doing pretty good. I've got more tomatoes as you go up it. The top of it got heavy and it kind of fell over, so it's just laying on top of the cages there. Again, I don't have anything to tie it up to. I did put a pole in the middle, but it's grown above that even, so I don't really have anything else to tie to that's going to be tall enough. But it's producing. It's the only one in that bed that is producing, so this is just not going to be a great year for tomatoes. And you know what, that happens sometimes. I'll start over next year in a new bed, probably put a lot of manure or compost down first, really heavy in the bed to try to feed it well, and then we'll see how we do next year. But I should get some tomatoes this year at least to enjoy eating. I won't be able to do any canning or anything, but it'll be nice to be able to eat them. I am very disappointed in my cucumbers. They are only just now, here it is July 15th, and they're just now really starting to take off vining. I do have a couple small, tiny little cucumbers started on these vines as well. It was producing flowers when the plants were only 2 inches tall, 2-3 inches tall, and they're producing flowers. So I was picking flowers off, hoping the vines would vine out. I've put compost tea on them on 2 different occasions, and then I went out finally and bought some plant food, put the plant food in there, and now they're finally growing. So that soil was it just didn't have the nutrients it needed to support these things. But now it seems to be doing better. Even my kale, if you look just past it there, past the cucumbers, you see the kale coming up. The fact that you can see the kale in the camera is a testament to how much better it's done. Remember, I planted that kale back in like early March, so it has just not done great, but it didn't die, so I give it that. Putting plant food in it and compost tea helped. And then I've got parsley beyond that, which is not great in the heat, so it's staying alive, but it's not really growing. So I suspect in the fall it should start doing a lot better when the temperatures drop. My potbelly friend here helping me in the garden is he's done a pretty good job of keeping deer and crows at bay. My corn plants got up to about 5 feet tall. Maybe I can zoom this out a little bit more here. And so it did okay. I've got some cobs coming in a few different places. I picked one. They're tiny. They're small. These plants aren't getting nearly enough sun. Probably other nutrients in the soil to get as big as they potentially can, but they're still producing. So again, this was all just an experiment. Bean plants are still growing up in them, but they're not producing anything. The squash are tiny but alive. I don't think they're going to produce anything. And then the deer, before I built that scarecrow, the deer did come in and just devoured my sweet potatoes over on the other side of the patch here. And they're coming back after I put the straw on them and put the scarecrow out here. They haven't touched them since, so they are coming back. But at this point, they should be a lot further along than they are. So I just don't know I'm going to get anything out of this garden bed over here that's productive. But it was fun experimenting and trying and seeing, and that's not the real purpose of this side of the yard anyways. This is eventually going to be food forest. But it also gives me an idea where the nutrient levels are in the soil, and I really need to start building up the soil in this area if I'm going to produce fruit from a food forest. So that's it for my updates on the garden. The next video I put out will be back in the tiny house. Sorry it hasn't been coming out very fast, but I've been a bit busy, and I got all the drywall hung in the tiny house, so I'll get to show you that. And we'll start mudding again here pretty soon too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.